It is 4:20 a.m. and I am up because I am flying to North Carolina to go tour Mr. Beast's studio for some reason.
Strange things happen to YouTubers all the time. In a sense, it's part of the job to put yourself in the path of weird things. You need an open mind to catch the diamonds in the rough, but it does mean that sorting through my email is often something resembling a trip to an alien petting zoo, a parade of barely identifiable nonsense, and many a thing that you very obviously should not touch. Back in late October, I got an intriguing email. Do you want a most expenses paid trip to tour Mr. Beast's studio and preview Beast Games Season 2 in December?
Yes? Yes? Yeah, I do, but why would Team Beast be reaching out to me, of all people? How would I have ever wound up on their radar? Critically, do they know who I am? I needed answers. So this was the question hanging over my head. Why was Team Beast reaching out to me? What was all this? What's actually going on? Actually, even before that, the question was more like, is this even Team Beast? And if there's some scammers impersonating Team Beast, do they know who I am? Wait, no, even before that, we've got to introduce our cast of characters. It may feel to many of you that Mr. Beast needs no introduction, but surprisingly he does. A lot of adults, especially those who don't interact much with boys aged 9 to 14, are maybe aware of the name, but have no real concept beyond that. Mr. Beast is the online alias of Jimmy Donaldson, who heads the at present most subscribed single YouTube channel ever, eponymously named Mr. Beast. The channel and its many gaming, philanthropy, and multilingual spin-offs are run by Team Beast as the largest single organ within Beast Industries, the conglomerate company that handles all the various Mr. Beast things, from a defunct cell phone company to a cartoon. And they were asking me if I wanted to come to Greenville, North Carolina, and peek around inside their stuff. This process was kind of hallucinatory. Team Beast is understandably secretive, so details in all our communication was pretty bare bones. And while I can understand why that was the case, it left a lot of room for my imagination to run wild with potential answers. For your viewing pleasure, I've taken these theories and compiled them into an internet-friendly, numbered list. The first and most obvious theory, of course, was that this was all a scam. Not because they were doing anything scammy, but just because none of it made any sense. You want me, Dan Olson, the line goes up guy, to fly out to North Carolina to watch a couple episodes of a TV show that I'm almost certainly going to be overtly hostile towards? Surely, that was just the initial hook for a pig butchering operation. But since there wasn't an open scam, we decided it was fine to just keep talking to them until they asked for money. After all, that would also be a pretty funny video. Eventually, they did ask for personal information, but only the stuff that would actually be needed to get onto a plane, and they never asked for money, so I went ahead and got on the plane. Of course, we did try and do some due diligence here. The domain the emails came from was MrBeastYouTube.com, which is a real domain, but the domain just forwards to the Mr. Beast YouTube channel. So on one hand, that didn't really tell us anything about the people sending the email, but also it was at least something of an indicator of legitimacy. Like, Mr. Beast's core audience is really young, so I'd imagine that MrBeastYouTube.com is a very common typo that Team Beast would lock down pretty quickly, specifically to avoid impersonation or scammers. And of course, the big thing that debunked this theory is that the trip was actually real. And in fact, I already told you I went, so really there's not much suspense in this theory.
I arrived in Greenville without any drama and met up with the 11 other YouTubers who were part of this little tour group.
The funny thing in this theory, though, is that everyone else on the tour had the exact same first assumption. It was literally the first point of conversation we had, and one group even insisted that Team Beast do a video call with them to verify that they were at least real people. Which, I wish I'd thought of that. I suddenly feel like I'm at a higher risk of getting taken than I would like to believe. I should, just a sec. So, a printout of our somewhat insane itinerary. So 7:30, I need to be down in the hotel for dinner. What is on the back? Nothing. Okay. Even up until the last minute, my professional intuition of what this tour would look like kept getting upended. I had assumed much earlier that the tour itself would be little more than a walk and talk, followed by a vertical slice screening of big moments from the first few episodes. So the warning to be prepared for a full day was a little shocking. Theory number 2 was that this was all a stealth way of getting us into a content. Like I'd show up and suddenly Jimmy would jump out of a helicopter screaming something like, "I tricked 10 video essayists into giving me their passports. Now we're gonna find out how many shirts they can sew in a week." The email said that we were allowed to make our own content if we wanted, no pressure, but they had no plans to make Mr. Beast content of the trip at this time. So, maybe they were leaving the door open for a surprise like that. But in the sober light of day, realistically, that's just not how Team Beast does surprises. They're more on the speed of not telling participants the exact details of their solitary isolation challenge, rather than like hidden cameras. Still, the human brain isn't nearly as logical as we like to imagine, so as we toured the main compound and got a glimpse of a bunch of sets in various stages of construction and disassembly, then drove out to stand in a field and watch the core team work on a main channel Beast video, this possibility was still always in the back of our minds.
Isn't that one of Bill Pulte's fake awards?
Theory number 3, which is the first one to really have some meat to it, is that this was all a wine and dine for Beast Games Season 2. A wine and dine is pretty straightforward in concept. A video game studio or movie studio or car company or Silicon Valley tech dingus or whoever gets a bunch of reviewers, flies them out somewhere, puts them up in a nice hotel, gets them to do cool stuff, feeds them, shows them the product in an ideal context, and then tosses them some branded swag on the way out. If it's a video game, they're playing it on a computer that costs as much as a car. If it's a car, it's a trim loaded with features that aren't even for sale. If it's a robot, it's a dude in a suit. The days of the Dante Inferno guys sending reviewers $200 for positive coverage are mostly over. Companies have gotten marginally more tasteful with it, which is a shame. Bring back promotional Halo 2 branded condoms. The whole idea is really just to take the reviewer out of their normal element, tailor their headspace, control the experience, and, maybe persuade them to give you a better review. So, in my case, even if this wasn't a wine and dine, even if Team Beast literally did not care one whit if any of us made a video about Beast Games Season 2, what was set up for us was still literally every component part of one. So let's talk numbers. Hotel room itself is a hotel room, but we do have a swag bag positioned under a light. So let's see what we've got. In terms of swag, we each got a hoodie, 2 t-shirts, and a hat, a Beast Labs toy, a bag of meat snacks, and some other candy. Then at the end of the day, after watching 3 episodes of the show, they let us just go hog on a standee of candy bars before presenting us each with a customized Beast Games Season 2 Strong V Smart team jersey in front of the signature Mr. Beast massive pile of prop money. All in all, the value of the swag came out to $220 to $230 US. Add in flights, hotel, luxury car service from Raleigh to Greenville, a restaurant dinner Tuesday evening, and then 2 catered meals on Wednesday. It averages out somewhere around $2,100 to $2,200 US per head, and the vast majority of that is travel and hotel. That's not a crazy number by any means, but let's acknowledge the context here. If I spent that on a one-person, one-day, two-night vacation, I'd say I got a bad deal unless I saw a really sick concert as part of it. But also, on the other hand, it's not even the most expensive business trip I've been sent on. And that's the gap that a lot of outlets take advantage of. There's a lot of smaller YouTubers out there who are full-time, but just barely. They're young, they're hungry, and they're taking a swing at a dream. But they're also inexperienced and easily impressed. That means that a corporation can spend a very normal business trip amount of money flying a 21-year-old YouTuber out to LA and get a really disproportionate emotional reaction out of it. That's the math underpinning a wine and dine, and this is a business model that has proven really effective for certain brands. But that didn't really line up with the reality of our tour group. No one in the group was exceptionally young. All of us were full-time producers. Most of us had little inclination to make a video out of the trip at all, and had mostly agreed to come out of raw curiosity. I had assumed that I was going to be the odd one out, that I was going to be surrounded by a bunch of credulous children, but actual attitudes ranged from interested and curious to just kind of lost. But carrying this theory to its logical conclusion, what's the goal? Well, it would be to get reviews of Beast Games Season 2 out of us as part of a marketing strategy. See, even if someone like me goes home and makes a negative review of the show, statistically those criticisms are going to be softened, the flaws forgiven as the foibles of mortal creators, because the viewing experience was optimal. I was removed from my normal environment, pampered a little bit, given free stuff, shown the behind-the-scenes spectacle, made to feel special, and also given a face to attach to all of it. As a mandatory part of this is that the video you're watching needs to go through their internal review process. And while the thrust of that process is to make sure that I haven't accidentally included production schedules, phone numbers, or details on unreleased content in the background, it still definitionally creates a surface of interaction that's going to influence the way that arguments are framed. It is, for most people, a lot harder to call something an existentially depressing exercise, a glimpse through the veil into a realm of undiluted capitalism where the concept of creative expression simply doesn't exist, is excluded from the process in the same way that my process doesn't account for the possibility of being besieged by the armies of Sauron, the Shadow in the East, if they have a name and face to attach to that statement. So the secret sixth ingredient in a wine and dine is a human face. I will say they've been extremely accommodating, but I mean it does make this process nice and frictionless, so I'm not really gonna complain.
That's a pretty cool set.
On the subject of obligations, an obligation that isn't present is the obligation to make content about the trip. That was actually quite explicit. Quote, "There are no expectations surrounding content creation." Now, while that sounds like reviews aren't the thing that they're after, that phrase tripped a specific fuse in my brain. A variant of this that you might be familiar with is the camera equipment review genre, where companies would send out free lenses and stuff, kit that costs $1,000, $2,000 at retail, and they say, oh, no obligation, just do whatever you want with it. And then these smaller channels, often younger influencers, just go, oh, okay, and make a video about the thing, and since there wasn't any money exchanged, there was no deal made, they just leave out the part where they got the thing for free. Technically, everyone's in the clear. It's not sponsored content, but it's a backdoor to sponsored content that exploits the good faith and naivety of inexperienced creators that don't have the institutional support structure that would teach them to watch out for stuff like that. That specific example is slightly outdated at this point, but only because other gear reviewers who know better and saw what was happening started pushing for making full disclosure an expected element of any review.
I should provide some disclosure. Sony did lend me this camera to make this review. I don't get to keep it. No money changed hands. Sony doesn't get any input on this video's production, nor do they get to see it before it's posted.
So that's in the back of my head here, right? And so this was the kind of briar patch of trying to figure out what was going on with this trip. What did they actually want, and why and how did my name end up on their list? Even if the trip itself wasn't shady, everything Team Beast did was also something a shady team would do. Doug Walker was actually one of the creators Team Beast invited, and he put out a video that is really illustrative of the kind of thing you'd expect to come out of a wine and dine.
I have to admit, even though these types of shows aren't my thing, I was genuinely invested through most of it. Truthfully, the whole attitude of the place seemed upbeat. I can definitely say it was pretty nice. Everyone, from my standpoint, seemed very honest, kind, and direct. A big thanks for having us out there when honestly you didn't need to. I can certainly say I had a lot of fun, and it was cool seeing how a media giant like this functions. It was a surprising and surreal experience, but it was a positive one I'm thankful I'll never forget.
In a word, the video is polite, cordial, trying to give Team Beast what he thinks they want. There's nothing particularly offensive about it. The vlog is just the inevitable output of the process Doug had just experienced. This is what that machine is designed to make. But notably, Doug caught some flack in the comments because he forgot to mention that it wasn't sponsored content, so his compliment sandwiches came across to some as just shilling for Mr. Beast. If there's a flaw in this theory, it's in the return on investment. The whole affair cost Team Beast somewhere in the neighborhood of $28,000 to $30,000, and while that's peanuts in the scope of Beast Game's marketing budget, the return is also kinda peanuts. This isn't so much a question of can they get $30,000 worth of coverage out of us, which I don't think they can, but more of a question of why even bother? At the point of writing, only 3 other participants had made literally anything about the trip. Doug made a video, as already mentioned, and had it ready to go for when the embargo lifted. TikTok creator Kate Riccio did a podcast episode on her side YouTube channel in early February. Ben at How to Beat posted a vlog about the trip in mid-February, and then I finally rolled out this sucker in whenever this comes out, long after every video and show I got a sneak peek at had aired and wafted away. I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm throwing my fellow content creators under the bus, but I toured Mr. Beast's studio isn't an instant hack to a hit video. In fact, they tend to underperform. There's just not $30,000 worth of exposure there. So this just can't be the primary reason. I refuse to believe that Team Beast, the optimization lords of YouTube, foresaw Doug's video as the primary intended outcome of this exercise.
We're out on their back lot, so prison set, a different set, some other set. I mean, it's a back lot. We also have a lovely sunset.
Theory 4 is that this was all an elaborate scheme to lure us into the woods and have us killed. They did not. As a more serious theory, there's the possibility that my involvement was in fact basically random, that someone at Team Beast scraped a bunch of possible channels based on target audience and favorable metrics, and Folding Ideas was on that list. That idea isn't entirely mutually exclusive with the rest of these theories, but it only explains why I was in Greenville, not necessarily why I was in Greenville.
So in that small amount of time we got to hang out with him one-on-one, we basically let him know that we appreciated the stakes that he raised, and at least 11 out of the 12 of us really appreciated the show. You know what I mean?
It's me. I'll self-report. He's talking about me. The 5th theory, which didn't really crystallize until we were in the thick of things, is that this was all a roundabout version of a focus group. One of the things that plagued the whole process was a deliberate vagueness. Now, Team Beast has reasons to be secretive. They are a large operation with a lot of moving parts. They're very high profile. Some competitors are definitely obsessed with scooping them on upcoming video concepts, and there are security concerns with random fans showing up at filming locations. But rather than the forthright admission that details were being withheld for operational reasons, all of this was couched in really peppy corporate wording, the kind that sounds inherently insincere and made it difficult to parse. For example, I do believe they were telling the truth about there not being any expectations around content creation. From their perspective, anything that we made to indirectly promote Beast Games was a bonus. In fact, I suspect the main reason why they even left content creation on the table was as a way of convincing us to come in case any of the people they were reaching out to would feel like they couldn't justify taking 3 days away from their normal content creation schedule. less of an issue for me, but definitely an issue for people making daily or weekly content. So I think when they said, "we want your thoughts," that wasn't just hollow platitudes, the kind of thing that corporate stooges say as a reflex. There were a few things wrapped up in that, but the obvious one was feedback on Season 2 of Beast Games. Not for Season 2 itself, but for Season 3, which they are in the process of starting. They were only going to show us the first 2 episodes, but then Jimmy rang up an Amazon guy and convinced them to show us a third. And even though these episodes were visibly incomplete, nothing that we were going to say was about to alter the trajectory of Season 2. What was interesting was that basically nothing we brought up ever caught them off guard. More or less, every point was met by someone from Team Beast or someone from Amazon, and a couple times even Jimmy himself kinda nodding their head and going, "Yeah, we've talked about that," in a really kind of resigned tone. Now, that's not a bad thing. Really, all it means is that they're professionals who are aware of the thing that they're making, but it did lead to a new-ish theory, Theory 5.5. We were there to settle an argument. Through this lens, everything snaps into focus. Why this group of people who don't really overlap with Mr. Beast in any conventional way? Why a highly critical middle-aged curmudgeon like me? Why so cagey about the purpose of all of this? This is a specialist test audience. You know there's problems, but there's a bunch of them, and no one can agree on which ones need to be fixed first. The idea here is that you actively avoid poisoning the well. You don't mention your own anxieties about the thing. You try not to call attention to anything. You just show the thing to a bunch of critics, and you see what they bring up all on their own. Now, of course, that's all going to be built on a foundation of criticisms of Season 1, which aren't hard to find.
Everything on the show is exaggerated. Everything is hyperbole.
And that's why shows like Survivor are like the #1 reality shows of all time. You really get connected with every single character that is on the show. I don't know how you can do that with 1,000 contestants.
A show with so little to offer its audience that at the very end, its host feels the need to look at us and say, "Wow, wasn't that something? Wasn't that important and deep? Wasn't that quite an adventure? Look at all the choices people made. Don't you guys love that? Don't you guys love the abstract concept of choices?" And it's like, no, I don't.
So when Doug says it's better than Season 1, that's some pretty important context. We're not exactly talking about the killing of a sacred deer here. Is that too much? Is that the most joke I've ever told? The Yorgos Lanthimos joke? Anyway, we were shown the first 3 episodes of Season 2, and we had a few notes.
At least 11 out of the 12 of us really appreciated the show, you know what I mean?
Okay, and then I had a few more notes. There was an improvement on characters. People actually have names now. Amazing. Cutting the cast down to 200 is still too many, but it gets the pool down to a manageable number much faster. There was less of the boys, Jimmy's gormless friends from his YouTube channel, and fewer instances of contestants being eliminated by pure random chance. But the games were still bad. It was still tacky and gauche. They still have been unable to shake the ties to Squid Game, and there's still too much of the goddamn boys.
All right, my script here says clip of one of the boys just lingering and being useless. Not hard to find. All right, so let's just scrub through an episode here, and yeah, there we go.
But yeah, overall our group's criticisms were fairly standard. We probably gave them a conventional, mainstream adult's perspective. Though it has been interesting to watch the audience's perspective diverge from our own opinion of the first 3 episodes, because a bunch of things we consider to be an improvement, they do not agree. You know, it's sort of interesting to consider that maybe they brought us in because they want to pivot Beast Games into really being a mainstream thing, not just a supersized Mr. Beast episode, but now they're kind of trapped because they already have a core audience that's here for the tacky spectacle and excess and Jimmy screaming, "Think about the money," in someone's ear.
Are you guys numb to money? This is real money! Real money! None of you want $1 million.
So that was the 5th theory, but even here, like, I'm way more confident in this idea than the others, but the problem is that all of the things that make a wine and dine work undermine this one. You're just not going to get the kind of incisive feedback you need if everyone giving the feedback is riding the high of an all-expenses-paid trip. The criticisms will be dulled, the harshness downplayed, everything's going to be a compliment sandwich around, it was better than season 1. So even now, there's a lot of questions I just do not have answers for. This was a glimpse into a completely diametrically opposite production mentality. If you watch the other vlogs of the tour, this is the point where they start to wrap up. They say that we raided Jimmy's supply of candy bars, were given custom Beast Games jerseys with our channel names, took some photos in front of the big pile of fake money, and all went home. But earlier in the day, before the screening, actually, even before most of the tour, we were sat down for an interesting conversation. And while most of it was softball questions, there was one that really stood out. And I wish they'd given us time to prepare beforehand because, boy, I could have given a much better answer. How do you create fandom?
And to answer that question, I've got a huge surprise for you. This backdrop isn't a real backdrop. It's actually just a curtain. Today, this becomes the first video essay ever recorded in a bouncy castle. Isn't that right, certification dude? Yeah,
I mean, we weren't going for a Guinness World Record, but we got one.
Anyway. Let's go. One of the first things that people notice about the Beast franchise is the profound inauthenticity of it all, which is something we'll definitely be unpacking, but something that has come to really stand out to me is a less visible but equally profound, proud inefficiency. In order to explain this efficiently, I need to get you more up to speed with the details of what Beast Games is actually like. And to do that, we're going to jump right into the deep end and then work our way back from there. The word I'm going to repeat a bunch here is intent. There's no intentionality to it.
Episodes 7 and 8 of Beast Games Season 2 are delirious in their structure, seemingly assembled by someone who doesn't know what the word episode means. Episode 7 begins with the resolution of the previous episode, a 3.5-minute segment where Katie is eliminated with a sledgehammer, narrowing the contestants down to the final 10. The next 17 minutes are a last supper, where Team Beast brings in the contestants' families, and they get to have a big meal together, including all the kids getting just absolute fistfuls of Feastables chocolate bars. After that, the next 23 minutes, fully half of the runtime of the actual episode, once you chop off the 3.5 minutes of credits, is set up for the next challenge, Buried Alive. This setup involves first the contestants strategizing amongst themselves about who they should vote for as captain, then the introduction of the graveyard set, then the vote for captain, which Nick wins, then the burying, which is really just a formal sprinkling of dirt over the windows of the plexiglass coffins, then an explanation of the rules of the game, followed by a full 5 minutes of Nick agonizing over how much money he should take, with the episode ending on Nick seemingly committing to taking all the money.
Are you going to take it?
Yeah.
But episode 8 rug pulls that ending, tossing the final line into the memory hole.
What's your number?
I'm gonna take $250,000.
Then they spend 31 minutes resolving the actual game, 14 minutes with contestants discussing the fallout of the game, insert a 5-minute tourism ad for Saudi Arabia, finishing on the setup for the next game, including an introduction to the set, an explanation of the rules, and then a cut at the first decision a player makes. At some point in the production of Beast Games, the decision was made for every episode to end on the very specific cliffhanger of a player decision within the context of a game.
And while this works tolerably well in the first few episodes, by the end of the season, the whole show is completely out of sync. Rather than cliffhanging on a deciding moment that will determine the outcome of a game, like episode 2 implying that Johnny has any hope of making this 9-foot jump, these episodes are ending at the moment their games actually get started.
One side effect of this is that the back half all just bleeds together, the show becoming a structureless parade of segments. But more to our purpose, it indicates a bizarre creative process where they knew they needed to make 10 episodes and had at least broadly planned what games would be in which episodes, indicated by Jimmy literally saying, "Welcome to the second last episode" at one point.
Welcome to the second to last episode.
But this also indicates that they hadn't considered what an episode would actually look like and where they would end. Our second point of reference here is Katie's elimination.
Like all these other cliffhangers, it is smeared across 2 episodes, being resolved in episode 7 but set up at the end of episode 6, and this setup is something else. The entire sequence is cut together from these truly horrendous crops of the footage, a post hoc attempt to veil the identity of the final eliminee, meaning that the structure of this ending, the build up to a cliffhanger, was thought up later and wasn't actually produced that way with intent.
This is the outward manifestation of profound inefficiency.
The Mr. Beast strategy, and by extension the Beast Game strategy, is to point 24 cameras at everything and sort it out later, a strategy usually summarized as spray and pray, a hallmark style of low-budget, trashy reality TV.
Beast Game Season 2 is a 9-figure production. That's the vague estimate I was told, which makes it 4 to 5 times more expensive than a season of Survivor,
which comes in around $2 million per episode times 13 episodes, plus prizes, rounded up to $30 million per season.
Even if my research is woefully out of date and a modern season of Survivor costs twice that, that's still half a season of Beast Games.
But does Beast Game Season 2 actually look and feel like it's twice as expensive as Survivor, let alone 5 times? Feel is hard to quantify, but Beast Game Season 2 provides a really strong contrast as a result of their crossover episode with Survivor, which was by and large assembled by the Survivor crew. Not only does the episode look better, but it features a better challenge, well balanced to make good TV, and it's also the only episode that ends with an ending.
What's going on in your mind? Leverage.
In contrast, episode 2 features a now notorious game nebulously named Bluff that just absolutely disintegrated on contact with the players.
Players each had a colored dot placed on the back of their head and had to stand in the corresponding color circle. The idea being that players had to rely on someone else to tell them what color they had, and they'd be vulnerable to a lie. The issue was there was no incentive whatsoever to lie. 1, people valued their own integrity and their own reputation above eliminating any single individual. 2, everyone basically split into pairs, so eliminating your partner one round just leaves you with no one you trust the next round. So you're basically gambling that enough other people will also betray their safety buddy at the exact same time and end the game,
or else all you've done is eliminate yourself.
So people simply refused to lie round after round. Of the people who were even eliminated by the game's rules, most were due to a process error where they waited too long or broke some other rule, and one villain got eliminated through the power of social ostracization.
Hey, what am I? Tyler!
But no one even bluffed him, they just refused to talk to him. At the end of the day, absolutely no one lied, and Jimmy had to eliminate people by drawing names from a box.
Is this absolute faceplant failure of a game really what anyone should expect from something 5 times as expensive as Survivor? This isn't just me being a snobby dickhead. Normies are noticing this. Everyone is saying it.
What do you think of Beast Game Season 2? It isn't very good.
Jimmy's shots, and only Jimmy's shots, were shot on an Alexa 265, which is a rental-only camera so limited and expensive that you can only learn the price of it by breaking one.
It's an awesome camera, and so Beast Game's decision to rent one would have been a great idea if Jimmy was the one running the damned obstacle courses.
There's a pivotal moment in the finale where a contestant is eliminated by being dropped into a pit, and the whole thing is huge and melodramatic, but then the actual hero shots of him going out look like a phone recording of a computer monitor. It looks so bad.
God, If only there were a rigged Alexa 265 somewhere in this room right now.
We already talked about a few, but all of the challenges and games are just so slipshod and poorly thought out. They all look like this and they all play like this. The opening episode's Strong Challenge came off head and shoulders above the corresponding Smarts Challenge. It seems clever and deliberate, but that's movie magic. Due to a critical flaw in the game design, the Strong Challenge was just too hard. The majority of the Strongs fell off their ropes, and the remainder was decided by an impromptu push-ups tiebreaker. The Smart Challenge, though, was also a creature of the edit. We are shown the smart contestants playing 3 rounds of Simon, already an incredibly lame challenge, but in reality they were playing Simon all night.
We'll be doing this over and over again, adding more and more blocks until 50 of you are eliminated.
The sun rose and the crew had to tape garbage bags to the walls to keep light from leaking into the temporary structure they had built in Nevada in lieu of renting a soundstage. People simply weren't failing this incredibly easy game, and it was taking way too long to verify 100 individual stacks of blocks between takes, so at one point Jimmy got bored, doubled the block count, and halved the time.
We're cutting the time in half and adding 4 extra blocks.
Immediately eliminating 82 of his 100 contestants.
I don't know why we did it. That eliminated more people than we needed. Like, it was a disaster.
Jimmy might have gone a little overboard. Somewhere in the endless flopping about that was the filming of the Smarts Challenge, the thing meant to decide whomst among the smartest people in the world was fit and worthy to enter Beast City. What became the final round was simply the same red, blue, green, yellow pattern repeated 4 times. These aren't isolated catastrophes. All the games have some fundamental flaw, and repeatedly contestants simply refuse to engage with the game as Jimmy and his poker buddies conceptualized them.
The lion's share of the entertainment value really comes from spotting those flaws in advance, like icebergs on the horizon. We could go on ranting about all the little foibles of Beast games, and so we did. There's a whole other video.
Everything in the Beast sphere is simultaneously absurdly expensive and cobbled together from scraps. One of the lies that Team Beast tells itself is that when they go into a new field, they gather a bunch of experts and really pick their brains, learn everything they can about this new venture, absorb all their knowledge.
But, no? I mean, hell, they told us that that's what we were there for on the tour, right? That was the purpose of it all. But if that's true, if we were brought in as subject matter experts, why did we waste 20 minutes standing in the hall looking at fan art? Why did nearly everyone we talked to pitch us on spectacle? Why did someone tell me with a seriousness like he was trying to seduce me that the ATV we were riding in was the exact same one Jimmy drives in the videos? Did you bring me here to pick my brain, or are you trying to sell me a timeshare?
That boy can fit so many words in it.
This is already a record-breaking video essay, and we actually broke 2 more that we didn't even tell you about. But that's not enough. We're taking it up another notch.
That's right, this is the first video essay ever recorded in a bouncy castle while wearing a tuxedo. Isn't that right, certification dude? Let's go! The deeper underlying issue here is cultural. Beast Industries is an organization obsessed with metrics. Jimmy is famously a metrics guy, so it's not really a mystery where that culture came from, but Team Beast is so obsessed with numbers, metrics, milestones, and spectacle that it has leapt from being something you put in front of the camera to something that has seeped into the very bones of the operation and metastasized. This is a major contributor to the fact that Beast Industries is kind of famously running the tank on empty, with revenue barely keeping up with expenses.
The entryway of Beast Industries is dominated by a massive digital counter that displays the main channel's real-time subscriber count, and it is surrounded by YouTube Creator Milestone Awards for the various Beast channels, flanked by dozens and dozens of Guinness World Records.
The root issue that arises is a tremendous amount of inefficiency can be sold internally as long as it can be tied to some metric of spectacle. The biggest, the longest, the most.
As an example of all of this in action, I was told at one point that Beast Games Season 2 had the largest BTS crew.
You know, the people who run around filming the people doing the filming, the largest BTS crew ever for a reality TV competition show at 16 people. Now, that's funny for 3 reasons. One, there is absolutely nothing in the BTS footage that says this required 16 people running around. You used 4 times as many people as normal, but absolutely did not get 4 times the results. 2, that's a lot of caveats, and it's really easy to invent a record if you just keep narrowing the scope. 3 is that, 16 people is not that many people, and even if it's true, there's no competition for that record. You invented a race and then awarded yourself the victor while everyone else was too busy doing their jobs to care. No one else is keeping score here, so why are you trying to impress me? I'm sorry, the fact that you even thought to think about it is a sickness.
The obsession with metrics is such a deep-rooted value that it has become a gilded cage, where Team Beast must be wary at all times of even the perception that they're losing the juice, that they've plateaued, that it is even physically possible for Mr. Beast to stop being the most watched single thing on planet Earth.
Speaking of the behind-the-scenes stuff, I keep thinking about this bit where Jimmy brags about using more equipment than the Olympics.
People might not even realize it, but we use more gear for this season of Beast Games than the Olympics used.
Okay, assuming that that is even true, that's the kind of brag that exists for its own sake. Beast Games is, for all intents and purposes, a sporting event where a single thing of interest is happening at any given time in a single venue. The Olympics is a sporting event where 2 to 4 events are happening simultaneously across 7 different venues. And for a visual comparison, Beast Games looks like this, and the Olympics looks like this. There couldn't be a starker example of it's not about what's in your kit, it's how you use it. If you're hauling out more gear than the Olympics, it's not because you need more gear than the Olympics, it's because you want to be able to say,
we have as much gear, if not a little bit more than the Olympics uses.
It's a really cheap, tacky way of thinking, and honestly, the product starts tripping over the process.
There's so many cameras that they are simultaneously capturing everything and nothing. Tied up in the more gear than the Olympics is bragging about how many GoPros they use. I don't remember the exact number, but Beast City and basically every game is plastered with GoPros, something like 600 of them. But to what end? The actual volume of GoPro shots that make it into the final cut are few and fleeting, mostly confessional stuff, and they don't really add that much here. I believe that a show like Beast Games has use for tiny action cams, and even has use for a very large number of them. You want to be able to stick one wherever you need one, up in high, hard to reach places, and not worry about getting it back down anytime soon.
But the math just doesn't math. Unless you're literally firing them into the sun, how do you get to 600?
One of the running storylines in Season 2 revolves around the lovebirds Monica and Jim. The two of them say they met at the games, but that meeting isn't in the show. And given their profile within the show, and the fact that they got married in Beast City during production, there's no way the producers would leave that moment out if they had it. So, a beast-zillion cameras pointed at everything, and you still didn't get the shot.
And you know what? It's fine. Not having that moment is fine. No one who noticed you didn't have the shot actually cared. I fear that Beast Industries is going to learn the wrong lesson from all this, that culturally they are inclined towards deciding that they need even more cameras next time, rather than learning they need to move forward with intent.
We have some of the largest sets in history. We're breaking dozens of world records, giving away millions of dollars.
Ultimately, Beast Industries lies to the outside world, and in turn it lies to itself. They've pumped out so much BS about their world records and status that they've bought in themselves. They believe in their performance and believe that performing it is the same as doing it. Like we mentioned earlier, Team Beast says that they love to bring in experts and purport to pick their brains, absorb their knowledge. This seems to be an internal cultural belief derived from Jimmy's explicit belief that complex subjects can be absorbed in 20 minutes or less.
Something that annoys me. Education. Why is it that your parents got taught the same way in school that your kids are getting taught? Look at Mark Rober's videos. Look at all this amazing educational content where you learn such great or like such complex topics in like 20 minutes, and it's really engaging and fun and you retain it.
And like, no, there's too much there. Let's not get distracted. Just no. This oddly recasts the entire visit into something between the performance of research, a ritualistic exposure to expertise, or straight up delusion, like they legitimately believe that listening to a dozen YouTubers freestyle their thoughts about fandom confers cumulative decades of experience. They told us how intentional and deliberate they are before moving into a new space, but sorry, that's demonstrably untrue.
Hell, while we were putting the finishing touches on this video, Defend1 released a video called Mr. Beast is Boring Now, and Jimmy turned up in the comments agreeing with the guy and suggesting that they hop on a Zoom call to hash some ideas out, which is an absolutely insane thing for the face of a media empire to admit out loud. Intentional and deliberate, but Jimmy's out there just doing whatever this is. Visibly, demonstrably, Beast Industries is being piloted by just some dudes who actually well and truly do not have a plan. Christ, I'm recording this line right now because we have to keep going back to revise chunks of the script because Jimmy just can't stop releasing embarrassing documentaries all about how bad they are at making a game show. I was kinder to the Awful Smart Challenge originally, where they played Simon. I was willing to blow right past it, but then we learned it wasn't just a bad game, it was also profoundly miserable to shoot because it took all night. My source for that is Jimmy Beast. James himself is the one who told me in a video he published. He's doing my job for me.
When we were doing the blocks game, I'm living in that moment right now, like sweating bullets, like, guys, we've spent twice what we were budgeted to today, and we're still going.
How much longer do you think we'll go tonight?
I don't know what's going on. Mr. Beast has a brand of chocolate bars, Feastables, that he would tell you is one of his passion projects.
I've poured thousands of hours, more than you could ever imagine, into perfecting this product.
But Jimmy says that in the same video where he announces version 3.0 of his candy bars, because the first version featured multiple critical design flaws.
There's a reason why like chocolate bars have these like break points here where they like break easily. I didn't know that. And so mine was just one solid sheet of chocolate, but that's almost like a piece of glass, whereas if you drop it, it just shatters into like a bunch of little pieces. And I also didn't know that there's a thing called a package engineer. If this was sitting on a shelf, when you grab this one, these would all slide forward and then they would fall out of the box. Or the box would fall off the shelf because of the weight. And so they would fall out like that. And then the bars, because we didn't have the natural break points, would shatter like glass.
You may have seen Feastable bars littering the floor of your local grocery store, and this was why. Jimmy actually got himself in a bit of hot water because he put out an ill-considered call for viewers to clean up the Feastable displays and send him photos in order to enter a giveaway. A few people got worked up about that, but it's mostly just embarrassing. So while Team Beast did identify the problems in their product, they had to see them manifest out in the real world first. This example suggests not only that they did not consult experts in launching Jimmy's coveted chocolate bar, but that no one so much as set up a prototype in a break room and eat through a box organically in order to experience these immediate and universal problems.
I've poured thousands of hours, more than you could ever imagine, into perfecting this product.
This is all just a means to the ultimate end of Beast Industries' ambition of being a $100 billion company.
This is actually one of the rules of Team Beast presented on bold posters in the halls of Beast Studios.
See the value. We are building the next $100 billion company. If you don't believe in us, you shouldn't be here. Now, that's ambitious. That's very ambitious. For context, Netflix wants to buy Warner Brothers Discovery for a paltry $82.7 billion. So they have to expand. The road to 100 billion isn't just paved with candy bars and YouTube videos, it's also toys, like a whole line of tiny plastic choking hazards called Mr. Beast Labs. Here's one of them. This is the rationale that justifies 600 GoPros. Be the biggest, at everything, at all costs.
and this whole process is toxic to the production. The need to not just be big, but to say that you're big ends up dictating the creative process at the expense of things like knowing when your episodes are going to end.
Because everything becomes a measure of clout. Saying you have the most cameras, saying you bring in experts before making your merch, saying you want to be a $100 billion YouTube company, it's all just clout. It's clout all the way down.
While this frame might look innocuous, it actually represents the most expensive single day of recording a video essay in Calgary, Alberta, an already impressive feat.
But that's not all. We've got even more firsts for you. This is the first video essay ever recorded with a bouncy castle in a tuxedo on Super 8mm film. Isn't that right, certification dude? Let's go!
I find the Mr. Beast style creatively repulsive. Jimmy is undeniably a savant at algorithmic optimization, but he has built a machine that is utterly incapable of comprehending its own work as a creative endeavor. The standard output of Beast Industries has no narrative structure, no build-up, no calm. It's just a wall of indistinct visual and auditory noise. Open a modern Mr. Beast video and Jimmy is screaming at you in literal milliseconds.
We just got dropped off on this 2,000-year-old ancient temple!
That much is clear from the outside, but perhaps the biggest revelation of the whole tour is how uncontroversial this status quo is. Mr. Beast videos begin as a title and thumbnail. That is the measure by which concepts are pitched and greenlit. This practice isn't a cardinal sin in isolation, it's a pragmatic reality of YouTube. Professional YouTubers need to put a lot of thought into the title and thumbnail because we want to eat. And yeah, sometimes the creative impetus behind a video really is that it'd make for a killer thumbnail, but it's rare that any of us will admit that because we know that it's a bit naughty, a bit tacky, because it's starting with the marketing and working backwards to create the product. It's cynical. Dare I say, it's anti-art. It wasn't shocking to learn that Mr. Beast videos typically begin as thumbnails, but it was shocking how open the team was to that admission. They were cagey about so many things, but this was said without a hint of concern. It's not a dirty secret, nor is it an open secret, because it's not a secret at all. It's public knowledge.
He goes, we obsess. He's like, we build 20, 30, 40 thumbnails, and once we like a thumbnail, we go build the video and the idea around it.
They had a poster on a wall, one that I tragically didn't get any footage of, that laid bare the mandate of the writer's room. Is this a 100 million view idea?
In his mind, it has to cross 100 million, right?
Oh, it's like 2.
Is it 200?
It's like 300 now. Yeah.
This mindset, where ideas are conceptualized as views and no idea can be more complex than a 10-word title, is nakedly anti-art. Again, though, creativity will always exist in some sort of tension with commerce because we need to eat. Now, you might counter by pointing out that Team Beast is just emulating the cold calculus you find in Hollywood, AAA gaming, and pop music. What I'd say to that is, sure, Hollywood executives have their equivalent to the 100 million view idea, and large-scale art, the equivalent of Mr. Beast, is absolutely dominated by commercial interests. But you will always find some sort of delineation between the suits and the creatives. If you want sinners, the only way to get it is to humor Ryan Coogler when he insists on shooting on Ultra Panavision 70. The smart business decision is to eventually step back and let Ryan cook. But on the other end of the spectrum, even the most corporate schlock fences off the artist from the commercial. Call of Duty does not want its writers or animators making business decisions because business decisions are for the businessmen. The core difference between all these ghouls and Beast Industries is that the business people and the creative people at Beast Industries are the same people. Separation is not only physically impossible, it's a crime. When a member of the content team has an idea, they turn their head and see this sign and are immediately challenged to make a business decision. They then begin workshopping the title and thumbnail, another business decision. And if the idea gets approval, it's handed off to the feasibility team, whose job is to make business decisions on whether the concept is viable. It's a process that is incapable of producing anything other than the hollow shell of art, the outward form devoid of substance, pure content birthed into the world by the raw pursuit of metrics. The way that Jimmy, and by extension the rest of Team Beast, use the phrase passion project simply can't escape the gravity well of their mercenary commitment to metrics above all. It becomes a shadow over everything. Most Beast stuff, from Beast games to Feastables, gets called a passion project at one point or another. Maybe this isn't even lying. Maybe Jimmy is legitimately passionate for cheap plastic toys and mediocre candy bars, but even the philanthropy projects catch strays here.
Beast Philanthropy is one of the many spin-off channels under the umbrella of Team Beast, though the separation is hazy at best, since Beast Philanthropy videos all still hinge on the same ostentatious spectacle that defines the main channel.
It's something of a boy who cried wolf situation. Jimmy may truly believe in Beast Philanthropy and may genuinely see Beast Industries as a vehicle to ultimately end world hunger, but these ideals sit directly alongside answering the question of if an octogenarian can win a foot race against a 12-year-old, or how much money is needed to convince two randos to spend a month living chained to their ex. The philanthropy stuff is weird. I don't want to get caught up in the weeds here. Beast Philanthropy has its share of scandals, but no matter how tacky and naive Jimmy may be while he points a camera at his altruism, it's hard for me to get worked up about this in a world beset by billionaires behaving like literal vampires. I suppose the oddness is rooted in how the philanthropy side of things emerged from the swamp of Jimmy's early career. The earliest stuff involved several different channels where he attempted a dizzying array of styles and formats, but his first success on YouTube came on a video titled I Counted to 100,000, where Jimmy counted from 1 to 100,000 in a single 48-hour session.
89,068, 89,099, 89,000.
Just recently, Jimmy Beast went on Jimmy Fallon and admitted that the impetus behind the video came from wanting to find a way to make money while watching Game of Thrones.
I thought about this. I'm not even joking. How can I make money while watching shows I like? And I was like, well, what if while I watch it, I just record myself counting, and it worked out.
And so, Mr. Beast's first viral hit was the purest possible business decision. It was trash, an utterly lifeless creative work with nothing to say beyond its title and thumbnail, simply a vehicle for making money. Beast Industries is the pure embodiment of that philosophy. In that sense, Jimmy never stopped counting.
89,701, 89,702, 89,703, 89,704, 89,705, 89,706, 89,707, 89,708, 89,709.
Beast Games is transparently a derivative of Squid Game. It's another open secret that could benefit from being at least a little bit of a secret. When Squid Game first came out on Netflix, the MrBeast brand was all over it. The premise of the show is that contestants have to do very simplistic, childish challenges under high-stakes circumstances, so the dovetail with the MrBeast brand was basically baked in. Initially, they just recreated the show in Minecraft for the MrBeast gaming channel while they assembled, shot, cut, and released $456,000 Squid Game in real life for the main channel in less than 2.5 months. That video is, to this day, MrBeast's most viewed video, and not by a small margin. Hence, we got Beast Games, the non-IP infringing Amazon Prime counterpart. What I find fascinating, though, is how Jimmy seems both resistant to and frustrated by comparisons to Squid Game.
First off, we didn't kill people.
During our preview of Beast Games, Jimmy snuck into the theater and was present for the following debrief. When I raised the subject of Squid Game, he became quite worked up. In his mind, Squid Game kills people and Beast Games makes millionaires, so they're not remotely similar and the comparison is offensive. And that is strictly true. Amazon hasn't given Jimmy clearance to murder his participants, maybe that's a season 4 thing, but come on man, Beast Games is a Squid Game ripoff. That would have been impossible to deny even if you hadn't actually made Squid Game IRL. This isn't a purely semantic argument. It has a tangible effect on the end product. When you make a sincere adaptation of the satirical fictional murder game show from the anti-capitalist classic Do Not Build the Murder Game Show, you're going to import the bad stuff. I don't need to belabor this point. Beast Games has taken a satire of reality game shows as humiliation rituals for the desperate and taken that as their starting position. Regardless of how altruistic the show's spirit may or may not be, the vibes were doomed to be gross from the start. But fine, Jimmy thinks the Squid Game comparison is unfair. Fine. Whatever.
First off, we didn't kill people.
The remark I found more upsetting came from one of the tour guides earlier in the day. We were told repeatedly that the philosophy of Beast Games wasn't to shape cast into stories or make them characters in editing, but to put them into scenarios that would expose who they really were.
Beast Games, in its purest form, its existence is a simulation. This simulated world can be cold, brutal, and is entirely controlled by choices.
This echoes the sentiment that Beast Games is some kind of grand social experiment, a social experiment centered overwhelmingly around two things: money and lying for money.
I'm getting more money for you, JC. I'm getting you more money, man. More money!
Can you give Nick 3 more K? You know what? I'll give Nick 3 more K. For what? I don't know. He wants more money.
The idea that Beast Games exposes some truth about individuals or collectives is deeply insulting and shows an ignorance to not just the product they created, but their chosen career. The social experiment thesis fails from first principles. It's a game show. While we get glimpses into human nature through peer pressure and the like, what we're seeing is predominantly the rules of Beast Games playing out in front of us. I think most viewers pick up on the game theory in Beast Games just intuitively. Everyone is here to make money, and long odds are you will never see any of these people again. Thus, you should always take the money. Your Beast Games integrity doesn't spend here. But the show is willfully blind to this idea. Beast Games loves the thought of people betraying their friends and allies for money.
If you don't think Corey has it, this is your chance to switch teams.
Are you gonna tell her what you told everyone else?
But if you guys once again refuse to lie to each other, you'll give me no choice but to go to my plan B. And I promise you, none of you are gonna like plan B.
The only reason that narrative plays at all is that, yeah, after a month of living together, there is a base amount of courtesy between the contestants that makes them feel bad about playing the game that they're there to play. Peer pressure is powerful in even small doses. What Beast Games considers tests of integrity or selfishness or whatever are, to me at least, better understood simply as exercises in coercion. A contestant makes a promise to someone else, and it's about finding a dollar value high enough to compel that contestant to go back on their word and make a liar out of them.
I didn't hold true to my word, and I feel bad. I feel somber. I don't even want to touch it. It feels dirty to me.
And sorry, I don't think that process says anything noteworthy about society or even Nick the wrestler as an individual. It's just juicing humans for content. Due to the magic of editing, it will always be about whatever the producers decide it will be about after the fact. When someone steals the money, it becomes a story of greed. When they hold the line, it becomes a testament to human integrity. To be really tacky and quote myself, they will always be able to use the whole bird. And you'd think that a team working in reality TV would be awake to this aspect of the genre, aware that it is literally impossible for them to not present a constructed story without posting the raw 24/7 footage. It's also just a bizarre thing to say to a room full of media critics and fans of reality TV who don't engage with the genre as if it's genuine. We know it's a show. We know what the sausage is made of. It is rude to talk to us like we're their audience and don't know where mommy goes when she holds up the dish towel. This is part of a pattern of behavior with Beast Industries, where the system as it is set up is constitutionally incapable of processing the optics of its own behavior. It's honestly not even malicious so much as it is supremely credulous. It's the kind of thoughtlessness that leads to leaving a Twitter philanthropy award on display from con man and Bed Bath & Beyond stock grifter Bill Pulte, seen here on stage with meme stock fail son PP seeds.
Has anybody here heard of Twitter philanthropy?
It's the absent-mindedness that leads to continually releasing behind-the-scenes clips that make you look bad at your job. It's a boys being boys attitude running a $5 billion company like you're still 4 dudes dicking around with leaf blowers in your backyard that fosters an environment of passive callousness that leads to the kind of heinous stuff that happened on Beast Games Season 1 that we just don't have time to go into. Hoots Hootman has a whole chapter dedicated to this in her video about Beast Burger. I don't need to retread her work.
Because within this 54-page class action lawsuit, by far the most heavily redacted pages released to the public are those that have to do with the sexual harassment of 5 women working on the set of a television show produced by the biggest company in the world and a YouTuber that statistically your middle school-age son is watching. I think this excerpt is particularly damning.
It's the lack of critical thought that leads to gormlessly flying the entire remaining cast of Beast Games off to Saudi Arabia to drive Lamborghinis around Riyadh, witlessly participating in the Saudi government's public image reformation campaign, along with star-studded comedy festivals and a chintzy Mr. Beast theme park. This is just wholly sincere advertisement. This is product placement.
Bro, this city's incredible.
Better than Beast City for sure.
This city looks like it's from the future. This is crazy.
One of the odd contradictions of Mr. Beast is that he doesn't have a fandom remotely proportional to his actual viewership. In theory, with his viewership of almost 4 billion views a month, he is on par with any major franchise, up in the same range as professional sports. He should be utterly inescapable, but instead he's just kind of lingering in the quagmire of the culture. To use Reddit as a very loose proxy for fandom, Beast Games' dominant subreddit has 19.4 thousand members. Pretty modest. By comparison, the major subreddit for The Pit has over 100,000. Beast Games Season 2 is a show that uses more gear than the Olympics, and The Pit is a show you may only have heard of because some beardy YouTuber told you it's good and that you should be watching it. I am that beardy YouTuber. Go watch it. We checked the main Mr. Beast subreddit the day after the Beast Games finale to find 2 posts in the last 24 hours, both about Minecraft, with a combined total of 6 comments and 15 upvotes between them, from a sub with 1.4 million followers. The sub is dead. And Mr. Beast's comments on the YouTube channel are just a comments section. Anecdotally, it feels like Mr. Beast's most diehard fans today come from the hustle culture side of things. People invested in Jimmy's bootstrap story and the fantasy of a small YouTuber building a media empire with his boys. People who share Jimmy's admiration of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. But those people aren't consumers. They watch Jimmy's podcast appearances. They don't watch Mr. Beast. Sincere Mr. Beast fans do exist, but there's nowhere for them to properly congregate and make Mr. Beast feel like a living cultural entity. I think the influencer iShowSpeed makes for a really illustrative comparison. iShowSpeed has 51 million subscribers at time of writing, a fraction of Mr. Beast's 468 million at the same point in time. iShowSpeed is mobbed wherever he goes. He can proc a stream in Kenya and it looks like the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's actually a little concerning. Speed reminds us just how big these numbers are. By contrast, Jimmy's public appearances, even when organized, pull in a fraction of this number. And maybe it's a mark in Jimmy's favor that he isn't out here causing human stampedes on the regular, but whatever you may think of all of this, it's clear that iShowSpeed has juice that Jimmy simply does not.
I am now the mayor of Peru!
Jimmy Beast can be personable on Jimmy Fallon, but Jimmy Beast is no Jimmy Jones. iShowSpeed's content is even more transient and disposable than Mr. Beast. It's a pure embodiment of stream of consciousness noise. It's not even right to call it creative work. It's a celebrity walking around and letting the novelties of the world come to him. So why does he feel so much bigger? Well, such is the ephemeral nature of celebrity. Back at Beast Industries, right next to the poster proclaiming that employees need to embrace the vision of being a $100 billion company, is a companion rule. YouTube first. We are here to make the best YouTube videos on earth, not the best produced videos. If you don't know the difference, ask Jimmy. There is baked into the company's values an ideological divide between what they do and art. Now, some people do in fact just think he's neat, and Jimmy Donaldson, the man, is indeed very easy to like. In actual conversation, he's personable and laid back and does seem to show a genuine interest in listening to other people talk about their expertise. When he's not actively screaming at you through the magic of the internet, Jimmy is mostly a frictionless individual. He isn't going to challenge you. Okay, he might literally challenge you to climb into a bucket of snakes, but he's not a challenging figure. But that's not enough. If Mr. Beast wants to realize the aspiration of being a $100 billion company, there are some extremely non-trivial hurdles to overcome. One is that there is a plateau to what Mr. Beast can achieve in its current form. There are simply a bounded number of 12-year-olds in the world. If Mr. Beast is to exceed that plateau, it will need mass appeal. It will need to be as mainstream as football. It might feel like he's kinda already there, but not remotely. The line that we're trying to navigate here is the difference between scale and popularity.
Beast Industries is currently valued around $5 billion overall and skating a little below $500 million per year in revenue, though not profitable. So their dream is to eventually 20x in scale. That simply isn't achievable as a standalone YouTube channel.
So Team Beast is attempting to leverage Mr. Beast as a launching point for other commercial ventures, such as the candy bars and toys, but while Jimmy is a savant at YouTube, he does not have the Midas touch, and has arguably been racking up a quiet string of failures. Beast Burger was marred by inconsistent execution, a grating premise, and bad partnerships, leaving the whole thing mired in litigation. Beast Labs has been described as so far past shelf warming it's not even funny. Lunchly shipped rotten food. But even if all of these were hits, you don't get to 100 billion by selling candy bars in the grocery store, you get there by being the grocery store. The next hurdle in that journey is that adults, broadly, don't like Mr. Beast.
I have a challenge for all of you.
They find the brand actively repellent and associated with low-quality, thoughtless products. Things made cheaply and quickly. Candy bars that need 2 iterations to have molded breakpoints. The whole enterprise has a stank about it, a manic desperation combined with a naked embrace of everything repulsive in the metrics-driven attention economy. Mr. Beast reeks of ambition, derogatory. Maybe Beast Burger, Beast Labs, Lunchly, and even Beast Games have been over-scrutinized. Maybe there is an army of haters out there who just want to see Jimmy lose, and Team Beast must navigate that every day. But that is a cage of their own construction, built one honey ad at a time. No one wants to see this guy win. This is villain behavior.
Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer, and install Honey.
A staple of the channel is rooted in giveaways and a participatory story of wealth distribution. In a hodgepodge of videos ranging from daring Chandler to eat a cockroach for $100 and giving homeless people bags full of cash on hidden camera, emerged a synthesis format where Team Beast round up X number of Ys and have them compete in juvenile challenges for vast sums of money. In the earliest days of this version of the channel, proximity to Mr. Beast was literally the sorting factor that could land you a sack full of bills, but even as the pool of participants expanded, the channel has never shaken the perception that one weird trick to getting rid of your debt is to know someone who knows someone in Team Beast's casting department. Of course, that's extra hard to shake when stuff like this keeps happening in 2025.
Alongside the help of Coach and his best friend, Chandler.
Chandler!
Yo, let's go, Chandler!
And the subscriber giveaways are too numerous to count. They're so impromptu that when he did the whole thing with recruiting kids to clean up his merchandise in grocery stores for a chance to win something, it barely even registered until it happened to break containment and some adults noticed what was going on. Everything that we've talked about, the obsession with money, the poorly thought out games, the cheapness of everything surrounding the giant pile of cash, the thoughtless, disposable nature of the end product, the transactional, subscribe for a cookie nature of the channel, the sheer tackiness of giving a kid a Mr. Beast branded prosthetic, people feel that. Turns out, sitting on piles of fake money to signal wealth is actually very cheap. Look, they even let us do it. Whenever someone in a focus group asks you a question, the question itself betrays an anxiety. So being flown a couple thousand miles to be asked by the most subscribed YouTuber in the history of ever, how do you build fandom, says something very telling about how Team Beast sees itself, its place in the culture, and its place in the future. And, you know, I don't have access to the MrBeast dashboard beyond the screenshots Jimmy posts to social media, but I'm something of a data guy myself. Out of raw curiosity, I graphed the performance of every main channel MrBeast video from his first viral counting video to present, and while there's a lot of caveats in these numbers, and by any objective measure of YouTube success, these numbers are still incomprehensible, but there's a very interesting trend in the data. Now, this is just a single axis of a very complex operation, but if I were a metrics-obsessed business and I saw this, I might get a little spooked. I still don't actually know why I was invited to MrBeast Studios, and at this point I probably never will. The exercise was supposed to be hype, clearly. Every interaction with the staff was infused with a delirious enthusiasm, but I just left haunted by a profound sense of tragedy. This glimpse inside a vast industrial machine that exists to produce nothing. Beast Industries pumps things out in service of a metric defined by its own existence. It does philanthropy, but is blind to anything that can't be encapsulated in a 10-word title and a thumbnail. They will rescue slaves, then shamelessly fly to Saudi Arabia so Chandler can drive Jim around in a Lambo.
Yo, let's go, Chandler!
And all of this compounds. The inefficient operations obsessed with metrics lead to a business that, as Jimmy keeps saying on talk shows, isn't making any money because they spend it all. The gilded cage of the channel's dominance means they simply cannot stop making stuff, and the deeply baked corporate culture of artlessness means there's no room for experimentation or reevaluation. Despite the money, the whole thing is cheap and plastic. Jimmy has, in his career, published dozens of videos that any other channel would have simply scrapped in production. This has been a successful strategy in terms of growth, but has tainted the image. The failure of the bluff game is embarrassing from a production standpoint. Just an absolutely entirely foreseeable own goal that heads should have rolled over, but it had to go out the door as it was. Too much was riding on it. And it's not even a one-off. The whole season is littered with moments like that. It's just the poster child. The brand is a hodgepodge of ill-considered, basically random ventures, from toys to candy to meat snacks to ghost kitchens to soon financial services, with the only common denominator being that it's directed at children. How you build fandom is by making something people want to watch because it's fun or interesting or profound, and not just because it hacks the attention pathways of 9-year-olds. The Beast Empire is comically precarious, suffering from the conditions of its own success, and for a brief moment, I got to drift past it. A flailing animal, a great beast of the sea, ill-considered, impulsive, no real plan, dysfunctional, obsessed with weird stuff, committed 100% to the immediate term, hurtling itself forward into anything and everything out of an existential fear that if it ever stops swimming for long enough to get its bearings, it will die. Team Beast spent $30,000 to fly 12 YouTubers out to North Carolina to show them some fields, feed them sandwiches, and ask them questions that could have been an email. Why? There is no why. It's just what they do.